The late afternoon light of Christmas Eve painted soft snowy streaks through the mistletoe diner's windows, which were fogged from the cold and decorated with paper snowflakes. Liam Lancaster sat motionless in his wheelchair before a glass of wine, doing nothing to touch the chill of his solitude. He was utterly alone on Christmas Eve. The door chimed, letting in a gust of winter air. A 30-year-old man in a dark brown cow hat entered, followed by his 6-year-old daughter, chattering happily, holding a small, brightly wrapped Christmas present. When they saw the young man sitting alone, the little girl tugged her father's shirt and whispered urgently. The man approached gently and asked, "May we join you?" Liam Lancaster had learned to measure life in the spaces between his father's phone calls. 22 years old, paralyzed from the waist down since a car accident 4 years ago, he inhabited a world of luxury that felt more like a gilded cage. His father, Richard Lancaster, was the CEO of Lancaster Technologies, a man who commanded boardrooms and influenced markets but couldn't find 5 minutes for his only son. The accident had changed everything, not just his body, which would never again respond to his desperate wishes to stand and run, but his relationship with the only family he had left. Richard had retreated into his work with the fervor of a man running from his own helplessness. He provided everything money could buy: round-clock nurses, a mansion with every possible accommodation, the finest doctors who all said the same thing: he would never walk again. What he couldn't provide was himself. Liam had grown accustomed to holidays marked by bank transfers and brief text messages, to celebrations with staff who were paid to care, to life where his wheelchair wasn't just a physical reality, but a symbol of the distance between him and the rest of the world. Wyatt Morris carried his grief differently. 30-year-old widower who worked with his hands as a rancher and a leather worker. He had raised his daughter Lily alone for 5 years, ever since his wife Clara died during childbirth, where Richard Lancaster fled from pain. Wyatt had learned to live alongside it, teaching his daughter that sadness and joy could exist in the same heart. His workshop smelled of hay, leather, and possibilities. Each saddle, he told, was a meditation on durability in a world where nothing truly lasted. Lily had inherited her mother's sparkling eyes and her father's gentle heart, combination that made her peculiarly sensitive to the loneliness in others. Perhaps it was because she had grown up with the ghost of a mother she never knew, learning early that love could transcend presence, that families could be both broken and whole simultaneously. Wyatt had taught her to notice the quiet ones, the people sitting alone in corners, the ones whose smiles didn't reach their eyes. Everyone needs a friend, Lily, he would tell her. Sometimes we need to be brave enough to offer friendship first. When Lily saw Liam sitting alone with his untouched glass of wine, something in the child's heart recognized a kindred spirit. Isolation, she had seen that same look in her father's eyes on the hardest days when he thought she wasn't watching. The little girl's intuition, unmarred by adult hesitation, told her this handsome man in the wheelchair needed exactly what they could offer: not pity, not charity, but simple human connection. Wyatt, following his daughter's lead, as he often did in matters of the heart, saw in Julian's posture the weight of sustained loneliness. He recognized the careful way he held himself, as if taking up less space might make his absence less noticeable. His rancher's eye, trained to see the truth in skittish animals, saw past the expensive clothes and the wheelchair to the person underneath who was drowning in solitude. The decision to approach him wasn't calculated or questioned. It was as natural as breathing, as necessary as his next heartbeat. "Excuse me," Wyatt said after Liam had looked up at them with surprise. His voice was warm, careful not to startle. "We were wondering if we could join you. My daughter would like to wish you a Merry Christmas." Julian's eyes widened, shifting between the man with kind eyes and the little girl, practically vibrating with excitement. When was the last time someone had asked to join him rather than being paid to be there? Lily didn't wait for an answer, bouncing forward with the small gift box. "I'm Lily, this is for you, Daddy helped me. Pick it out, we come here every year on this day because it's my mommy's birthday too, she's in heaven but Daddy says she can still see us. Celebrating the innocence of the child's offering the matter-of-fact way she spoke of death and celebration in the same breath pierced through Julian's carefully constructed walls. Wyatt pulled out a chair, moving with the unhurried grace of someone who had learned that the most important moments in life couldn't be rushed. I'm Wyatt. No one should be alone, especially on Christmas Eve. Liam found himself nodding, unable to speak past the sudden tightness in his throat, when Lily started humming Silent Night in her sweet, slightly off-key voice. Julian closed his eyes and felt a wish form in his heart for the first time in 4 years. The wish was simple, so simple it almost hurt. He wished not to be alone anymore. Wyatt's baritone joined his daughter soprano, creating a harmony that filled the small diner with more warmth than Liam had felt in years. Other customers glanced over with smiles, but Liam barely noticed them. His world had narrowed to this table, these two strangers who had chosen to see him, to sit with him, to make his Christmas Eve mean something again. Over the days following Christmas, what began as a chance encounter evolved into something deeper and more profound. Wyatt and Liam met regularly at the park, where Lily built snowmen and chattered endlessly about her drawings, her favorite books, and the mother she imagined through her father's stories. Liam discovered that Wyatt's presence didn't demand anything from him. He didn't look at his wheelchair with pity or discomfort. He simply saw it as part of him, like the color of his eyes or how he bit his lower lip when concentrating on a book. Their conversations meandered through safe territories at first: literature, Lily's antics, the weather, before venturing into deeper waters. Wyatt spoke of Clara, not with the raw anguish of fresh grief, but with the warmed smoothness of a stone that had been turned over in his pocket thousands of times. He told Liam how Clara had been a kindergarten teacher who believed every child was a universe of possibility, how she had painted their tiny home with murals of fantastical forests where anything could happen, how she had faced her pregnancy complications with a courage that still took his breath away. Liam found himself sharing things he hadn't told anyone, not even the expensive therapist his father had hired. He described the moment of the accident with clinical detachment. At first, the drunk driver who had run the red light, the sensation of flying through the air, the strange peace before the pain. Then, gradually, he revealed the deeper wounds, waking up to his father's mask firmly in place as he discussed his care with doctors, as if negotiating a business deal. The slow realization that he had become a problem to be managed rather than a son to be loved. The endless days in the mansion where every need was anticipated except the need to be seen as more than his disability. Lily would often interrupt these heavy conversations with the perfect timing children possess, dragging Liam into her imaginative games where wheelchairs could fly and sadness was just another color to paint with. The little girl had decided that Liam was essential to her world, frequently asking, "Are you happy today, Mr. Julian?" with the serious concern of a tiny therapist. One afternoon at their usual coffee shop, while Lily was absorbed in coloring at a nearby table, Wyatt watched Liam laugh at something the child had said, and he felt something shift in his chest. It wasn't the dramatic lightning strike of new love, but rather the gentle recognition of possibility, like the first green shoot pushing through winter soil. Liam must have sensed his gaze, because he turned to him, and for a moment they simply looked at each other. The coffee shop faded away, and there was only this: two men who had been broken in different ways, discovering they might fit together, not despite their damage but because of it. Wyatt reached across the table, his fingers barely brushing Julian's. "Julian, I need you to know something. Lily and I were not here because we feel sorry for you, we're here because you make our days better, you make us better." Julian's eyes filled with tears. He didn't try to hide. "I don't know how to do this," he whispered. "Neither do I," Wyatt admitted, "but maybe we can figure It out together, their relationship grew. Slowly, carefully, like a garden tended. By people who understood that the most beautiful things required patience, they discovered joy in small moments. Lily teaching Liam how to braid leather for a bracelet, Wyatt adjusting restaurant chairs without being asked, so Julian's wheelchair fit perfectly, Liam reading stories to Lily with different voices for each character while Wyatt watched with soft eyes the universe of their small healing family might have continued to expand gently. But Richard Lancaster had been watching from the shadows of his corporate tower. He had hired private investigators the moment his household staff reported that Julian was spending time with inappropriate company. The reports on his desk painted a picture that filled him with cold fury. Wyatt Morris, a working class widower with modest means, spending hours with his damaged son. To Richard, the conclusion was obvious: this man was a predator targeting a vulnerable heir. He summoned Liam to his study one evening, a room he rarely entered, with its wall of monitors displaying stock tickers and its smell of expensive leather and disappointment. You will cease all contact with this man immediately, Richard commanded, not looking up from his laptop. He's using you, Julian. What else could he possibly want from someone like you? The cruelty of the words, the casual dismissal of his worth beyond his bank account, hit Liam like a physical blow. Someone like me, he repeated, his voice dangerously quiet. You mean you're broken? Son, the one you can't stand to look at. Because he reminds you that you're not actually God. Richard finally looked up, his face a mask of controlled anger that Liam remembered from hostile takeover meetings he'd witnessed as a child. I'm protecting you, you're naive, Julian. You've been sheltered, you don't understand how the world works. Julian laughed, a bitter sound that seemed to surprise them both. Sheltered? I've been imprisoned. There's a difference, father. Wyatt and Lily see me, they actually see me. When did you last look at me without seeing a liability? Richard stood, his full height meant to intimidate. Tactic that worked in boardrooms but only made Liam feel smaller in his chair. Enough. If you continue seeing him, I'll take legal action. I'll claim he's taking advantage of a disabled person. I'll destroy his little ranching business. Is that what you want? Julian felt the trap closing around him. He knew his father's threats weren't empty. He had destroyed competitors with less motivation. The thought of Wyatt and innocent Lily being crushed by his father's machinery was unbearable. That night he sent Wyatt a text with shaking hands. I can't see you anymore, please. Don't contact me, I'm sorry. The words felt like swallowing glass, each letter a betrayal of everything real he'd found. Wyatt stared at the message, reading it over and over as if the words might rearrange themselves into something that made sense. The text seemed so unlike Julian, so cold and final. Lily found him sitting in the dark living room hours later, still holding his phone. Daddy, why are you sad? She asked, climbing into his lap with the instinctive understanding that her father needed comfort. Mr. Julian can't see us anymore, sweetheart, he said, his voice rough with unshed tears. Lily was quiet for a long moment, processing this information with the deep thought children give to incomprehensible adult decisions. But he loves us, Lily said simply. I know he does. He smiles different when he sees us, real smiles, not pretend ones. Wyatt hugged his daughter tighter, amazed at her perception and heartbroken that she was learning so young that love wasn't always enough. For 3 days he respected Julian's wishes, though it felt like holding his breath underwater. His workshop felt oppressive, each piece of leather reminding him of stories he'd planned to share with Julian. Lily stopped singing around the house, her usual cheerfulness dimmed like a light with a dying battery. On the 4th day, when Lily asked if Liam didn't want them because they weren't rich, something in Wyatt snapped, not in anger but in determination. He wouldn't let Lily believe that love was conditional on bank accounts. They drove to the Lancaster mansion, a journey into a different world where gates were meant to keep people out rather than welcome them in. The security guard was polite but firm. I'm sorry, sir, you're not on The approved list behind him, the mansion loomed like a beautiful prison. Lily pressed her small face between the iron bars of the gate. Mr. Julian, she called out. Mr. Julian, we miss you. Please come back, her voice carried on. The wind, a child's pure longing that no amount of money could buy or sell. Inside the mansion, Liam heard that precious voice calling his name. He was in his room, having refused to leave it. Since his father's ultimatum, the sound of Lily calling for him was unbearable. Each word a reminder of what he'd given up to protect them. He wheeled himself to the window and saw them at the gate. Wyatt standing with his hand on Lily's shoulder, both of them looking lost. Something inside Liam snapped, not broke but snapped back into place like a dislocated joint finally returning home. He thought of all the years he'd been obedient, all the times he'd chosen his father's comfort over his own happiness, and he realized that protecting Wyatt and Lily from his father meant nothing if it destroyed them all. Anyway, Liam maneuvered his wheelchair to the service elevator, the one the staff used, avoiding the floors where his father might be. He made it to the kitchen's back door where Maria, the cook who had known him since childhood, took one look at his face and simply opened the door without a word. Be happy, Mojo Joe, Maria whispered, understanding without explanation. The evening air was cold and a light snow had started to fall, but Liam didn't care. He knew where he needed to go, drawn by the same instinct that had first brought them together. By the time he reached the Mistletoe Diner, he was chilled through his wheelchair harder to push on the slick sidewalk, his arms aching from the effort, but he persisted. He pulled open the door with trembling hands, the bell chiming his arrival like an answered prayer. The diner was nearly empty, but there, sitting at the same table where they'd first met, were Wyatt and Lily, looking as lost as he felt. They had gone there after being turned away from the mansion, drawn by the same magnetic pull of memory and hope. Julian, Lily cried out, jumping from her chair and running to him, wrapping her small arms around his cold form without hesitation. You came back. I knew you would. I told Daddy you loved us. Wyatt stood slowly, his eyes taking in his soaked state, the determination and desperation written across his face. Without a word, he removed his jacket and wrapped it around Julian's shoulders, his hands lingering for just a moment, feeling him trembling beneath his touch. You're freezing, he said softly. What are you doing here, Julian? He looked up at him, snow and tears indistinguishable on his face. I'm choosing, he said simply. For the first time in 4 years, I'm choosing. I choose you. I choose Lily. I choose us. My father can threaten all he wants, but I won't live in that prison anymore. I won't. Wyatt knelt beside his wheelchair, bringing himself to his eye level, his own eyes wet with emotion. Julian, are you sure? Your father could make things very difficult. He could hurt us financially, legally. Julian reached out, cupping his face with one cold hand, feeling the roughness of his jaw, the warmth of his skin. Let him try. I've already lost the use of my legs. I won't lose my heart too. You and Lily are my heart now. The door burst open with a violence that made them all jump. Richard Lancaster stood there, snow-dusted and furious, having tracked Liam through the GPS on his phone. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his carefully styled hair in disarray, but his anger blazed undiminished. Julian, enough of this nonsense. You're coming home now, his voice boomed through the small diner, authority and anger radiating from every word. But before Liam could respond, Lily stepped forward, all 6 years and 40 lb of her, and stood between Richard and Julian. You're mean, she said clearly, her small voice carrying the weight of truth. You're his daddy, but you're mean. My daddy says family means being there, not just paying for things. You make Mr. Liam cry. That's not what daddies are supposed to do. Richard looked down at this tiny warrior child, and something in her fearless accusation pierced his armor. You don't understand, little girl. I'm protecting my son. Lily shook her head solemnly. No, you're not. You're protecting yourself from feeling sad. My daddy feels sad about mommy, but he doesn't run away. He stays. The truth from a child's mouth hung in the air like an indictment. Richard's gaze moved From Lily to Julian, and for the first time in 4 years he truly looked at his son. He was soaking wet in a modest diner defended by a cowboy and a child. And he looked more alive than he had since the accident, the fire in his eyes, the determination in his posture, the protective way Wyatt stood beside him. This was his son, not the broken shell he'd been managing. Julian, he began, his voice cracking. Dad, Julian interrupted, when I woke up in that hospital, paralyzed and terrified, do you know what I needed? Not the best doctors or the fanciest equipment. I needed my father. I needed you to hold my hand and tell me we'd figure it out together. Instead, you disappeared into your office and threw money at the problem. Well, I'm not a problem to be solved. I'm your son, and I'm in love with this man who sees me as whole, even though I'm broken. Richard's shoulders sagged, the fight leaving him as suddenly as it had arrived. He walked slowly to a chair and sat down heavily, looking every one of his 60 years. Snow outside intensified, swirling against the windows like an accusation. I didn't know what to do, he admitted quietly, his voice barely audible. When your mother died, I could work harder, make more money, build a bigger company in her memory, but when you got hurt, all my money couldn't fix it. I felt so useless. I am useless, Wyatt spoke for the first time since Richard's arrival. You're not useless, you're afraid. I understand that. When Clara died, I wanted to follow her, but Lily needed me, so I learned to be afraid and present at the same time. Your son needs you, Mr. Lancaster, not your money or your protection, just you. Richard looked at this working man who had somehow understood what he, with all his education and success, had missed. Lost 4 years, Richard said, his voice broken. How do I come back from that? Liam wheeled himself over to his father, reaching for his hand. One day at a time, Dad, just like I learned to live with this chair, one day at a time. Together, Richard gripped his hand like a drowning man finding shore. I'm sorry, Julian, I'm so sorry. I turned you into a project because I couldn't bear to see you in pain, but I see now that I caused you more pain than that accident ever did. Lily, with the perfect timing of a child who sensed the storm had passed, piped up, does this mean we can all be a family now? Because I really want Mr. Liam to be my other daddy. The innocent question broke the remaining tension, drawing watery laughs from all the adults. Richard looked at his son, then at Wyatt, then at the little girls, who had shown more courage than most adults ever would. If you'll have me, he said quietly, I'd like to try. I'd like to learn how to be a father again. Grandfather, maybe. Liam squeezed his hand, tears flowing freely now. We'd like that, Dad, we'd all like that very much. 1 year later, the mistletoe diner was transformed with white ribbons and evergreen boughs for an afternoon that would blend celebration with remembrance. It was Christmas Eve, the anniversary of their meeting, but more importantly, it was their wedding day. They had chosen to have the ceremony in the place where their lives had truly begun, where a stranger's kindness had opened a door they thought had been forever closed. The guest list was small, but meaningful. Wyatt's fellow ranchers, who had become like brothers to him. Some of Julian's old friends who had reconnected once he left his father's prison. The diner staff who had witnessed their love story unfold. And Richard, who stood ready to walk his son down the aisle. The aisle itself was wide enough for Julian's wheelchair, which Lily had decorated with holly and ribbons until it looked like a winter chariot. When he smiled at Wyatt waiting at the makeshift altar, he was radiant with a joy that seemed to light the room. From within, Richard had changed dramatically over the past year. He had stepped back from day-to-day operations at his company, promoting long-time employees and trusting others. For the first time in decades, he attended Julian's physical therapy sessions, learning how to help with exercises and transfers. Most importantly, he had learned to sit with his son in silence, not needing to fix or manage anything, just being present. He had also formed an unexpected friendship with Wyatt, finding in the younger man a wisdom that had nothing to do with stock portfolios or market strategies. They would spend evenings in Wyatt's workshop, Richard learning to tool leather with his hands, For the first time in his life, discovering the meditation of creating something beautiful from raw materials. When Richard walked beside Julian's wheelchair, his hand resting lightly on his shoulder, his eyes were wet with tears he didn't try to hide. "You look so handsome, son," he whispered. "Your mother would be so proud." Julian squeezed his hand. "She would be proud of you too, Dad, for finding your way back." As Liam reached Wyatt, Lily stood beside him as the flower girl, bouncing with excitement in her red velvet dress. The ceremony was simple, officiated by the diner owner who had witnessed their first meeting and felt invested in their love story. Wyatt vows were straightforward and profound. "Julian, you've taught me that love isn't about finding someone perfect, but about finding someone whose broken pieces fit with yours to create something whole. I promise to push your chair when you're tired, to carry you when needed, but most importantly, to always see you, not your disability, as the incredible man who saved Lily and me from a life half-lived." Julian's vows brought tears to everyone present. "Wyatt, you and Lily didn't just accept my limitations, you showed me they don't define my possibilities. You've given me a family, a future, and a love I thought only existed in the books I read. I promise to be the father Lily deserves, the husband you deserve, and to never let a day pass without choosing us." Over and over again, when they kissed, Lily cheered so loudly that everyone laughed, breaking the sacred moment into something even better, pure, unbridled joy. The reception was held right there in the diner, with Wyatt's friends playing country music and everyone dancing, including Julian, who spun his wheelchair with abandon while Lily danced circles around him. Richard surprised everyone by taking the microphone. "I spent most of my life thinking success meant never showing weakness, never needing anyone. My son and his new family have taught me that real strength comes from vulnerability, real success from connection." "Wyatt, thank you for seeing what I was too blind to see." "Lily, thank you for your innocent wisdom that cut through years of my foolishness." "And Julian, my wonderful son, thank you for having the courage to choose love despite my failures. Your mother always said I work too much, and she was right, but it's never too late to learn." As the evening wounded down, Liam found himself outside briefly for fresh air. The stars were bright above the town, a rarity that felt like a blessing. He could hear the laughter from inside the diner, the music still playing. Wyatt joined him, bringing 2 glasses of wine. "No one should be alone on Christmas Eve," he said, echoing his first words to them. Liam laughed, pulling him down for a kiss. "I'll never be alone again, will I?" Wyatt shook his head. "Never. You've got me, Lily, your father." And he paused, his eyes shining. "The agency called this morning." Julian's eyes widened. He had planned to wait until tomorrow to ask again, but somehow Wyatt knew the adoption. He breathed. "It went through." Wyatt grinned. "We've been matched, baby boy. Lily's already planning to teach him everything about everything." Liam laughed through happy tears. "I was so worried about the process, about everything." Wyatt knelt beside his chair, his face serious but unafraid. "Then we'll face the complications together. That's what we do, right? Face things together." 6 months later, when they brought home their baby boy, they named him Nathan Richard Morris Lancaster. Nathan after Wyatt's father, and Richard after the grandfather who had learned to love again. Their home was full of family. Richard held his grandson with trembling hands while Lily explained to baby Nathan all the important things about being part of their family. "You have to know," she said seriously to the infant, "that we're a special family. We chose each other. That's the best kind of family." Wyatt stood beside Julian, their fingers intertwined, watching their blended family with wonder. The journey from that lonely Christmas Eve to this moment of abundance hadn't been easy. There had been challenges with the adoption, moments of doubt, times when old patterns tried to reassert themselves. Richard had occasionally slipped back into his workaholic tendencies, and merging 2 broken families into one whole unit had required patience, therapy, and endless grace. But they had learned that healing wasn't a destination but a journey taken hand in hand, wheel by wheel, step by step. They had discovered that love wasn't about perfection but about showing up day after day, especially when it was hard. Liam looked around the room at his father cooing over his grandson, at Lily, making the baby laugh with silly faces, at Wyatt's eyes full of love and gratitude, and he thought about that wish he had made on his 22nd Christmas Eve. He had wished not to be alone. Universe in its mysterious wisdom had given him so much more, a love that saw past limitations, a family forged from loss and hope, and a future that proved that sometimes the most beautiful gardens grow in the most unexpected soil. As baby Nathan wrapped his tiny fingers around Julian's pinky, he whispered a prayer of gratitude for the broken road that had led him home.